Well, kia ora tātou, how can I help?
You were booed, drowned out by Waitangi. Do you think you actually achieved anything?
Well, absolutely. I delivered the message I came to deliver, and a small minority of people, you'll notice the actual host, were all listening, misbehaved, but I think New Zealanders can make up their own mind. Does that really change the importance of the message getting across?
You talked about the message. You said you want to have a contest of ideas. You said if you want to have a contest of ideas, you need to show up with something.
Yeah, absolutely, because we've had people who have engaged in a debate that's really just attacking people. I think it's important we start debating ideas rather than attacking people.
Peter Tiffany has also offered an apology for your speech interrupted. How do you respond to that?
Oh, well, look, Peter's always been a very honourable man, and I'm grateful to hear that. I just note that it was actually a pretty small portion of people who aren't actually mana whenua here who were interrupting the speeches. Actually, it was a very successful event where the real hosts were actually sitting and listening very respectfully. And I think one of the bad things that could come out of their behaviour is for the rest of New Zealand to see their behaviour as representing all Māori. It most certainly does not.
Peter Tiffany also said that he would like the Prime Minister to kill the Treaty Principles Bill in its tracks. What would happen to the coalition government if the Prime Minister did that?
Well, it's to be determined, but certainly so far everyone in the coalition is honouring all their commitments, and if we find that commitments aren't being honoured, then that's uncharted territory. I don't think anyone wants to go there, and that's why we've got a tight coalition that's honouring all its commitments.
Could we see the collapse of the government if the Treaty Principles Bill was killed?
Well, put it this way, we are all working together for a better New Zealand, which requires honouring our commitments to each other. So like I say, it's uncharted territory. I'm not going to speculate what that would mean.
During the negotiating process, was there nothing else that Christopher Luxon could have offered you instead of the Treaty Principles Bill? Was that an absolute bottom line for you, or you weren't going to go into government with them?
New Zealand cannot continue and flourish so long as some citizens are in partnership with the Crown and others have a different status. That is totally incompatible with liberal democracy as practiced all around the world, and it's been a disaster in so many places it's been tried.
Was there nothing else he could have offered you?
I think I just answered how important that discussion is. Yeah.
Take us kind of into your mind how it was sitting there in the front row hearing what was pretty strong kōrero. I know that's expected, but very, very personal to you, and also you felt the need to respond to some claims that were made during that some of the speeches there. Can you take us into that space?
My view is facts are friendly. Always happy to debate the facts, but when people say things that are untrue. For example, one of the speakers insinuated that I've said that some people are unwashed and that she had felt the need to claim that she bathes regularly. Well, I felt that was really unfortunate that she was saying that because she was totally not just misrepresenting what I'm saying, but actually saying something I've never said. I also, frankly, think the way that I was told that it was a form of weakness to rely on a woman, a very strong and powerful woman, by the way, to do a job. I just couldn't believe I heard that in 2024. It was astonishing.
We could hear your reaction to that, and also your, how you were received. It was pretty, the crowd had some things to say about that, and there was certainly a bit of wasn't as settled as it had been before. So take us through your thoughts there.
I think every time anybody comes and speaks up at Waitangi, it becomes unsettled. But I had a really great opportunity, and I'm very, very humbled that I was allowed to speak on the Māhau in a pōwhiri where it's never happened before. For me, that's humbling not only for myself, but for my girls, for my tipuna as well, to be given that opportunity. Now, some wanted to drown me out, and I think that more had to do not with what I was saying, but rather the fact that I was even speaking.
But the wahine in the crowd that I was standing with were really proud to be able to see you and to kōrero on the Māhau, on your marae, on your whenua. So those that were perhaps criticising you may not actually have been mana whenua?
They may not have been, and I think the whole thing is that the dialogue is open. We are here to listen, and we are here to move forward and move this country forward as one. Respecting and understanding the treaty and what the articles mean, but allowing everybody in New Zealand to have the same tino rangatiratanga. And I was very, very humbled to be given the opportunity to speak my truth, which is about my whakapapa and my heritage, where I come from, and the future that I want for my family, my children, and the other children that are going to be growing up here in New Zealand.
Do you think, cutting through the narrative then that is out and about amongst our whānau, that it might be more receptive if it came from perhaps you and Karen?
I don't think that it matters whether it comes from Karen or myself, whether it comes from Brooke, from Laura, whether it comes from any of the tāne. What it means is that we have the opportunity to discuss, to get that conversation going, and to hear and listen from and to the other side.
David, can I ask you about the Treaty Principles Bill?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I'll let Joe go first.
Joe.
Can I just ask, there's a lot of chat about how things were done differently today. Obviously, some of the leaders of the Hikoi, Hone, etc. were able to come in and chat. Do you think that perhaps the way that things evolved today might actually speak a little bit to the fact that race relations are actually progressing in New Zealand, and that there was able to be an exchange so honestly and frankly as what happened today?
I think when you peel it all away, there are a small minority of people that really misbehaved and were offensive to tikanga, offensive to people's efforts to be there and have the exchange. But overwhelmingly, it was a positive exchange of ideas, and I think people on all sides have got closer to understanding where the other side's coming from.
Do you think any progress was actually made today?
Yeah, because I can appreciate that there are people there that are genuinely concerned and hurt and concerned about their mana with respect to the Treaty Principles Bill. But I also got some insight into why they think that. I think it's because of some of the things that have been said about what we're trying to do, which is totally wrong. So that was helpful knowledge, and I think that today is just one more day and one more step to greater understanding towards 2040.
Can you just be a bit more specific on that? Like, what was a particular takeaway that you had around the Treaty Principles Bill today?
Oh, there were people who said that we want to take it away. There were people there that said we want to belittle Māori language. I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth in either case.
So, can I just ask a similar vein? The Treaty Principles Bill is dead without the support of two other parties who don't currently support it. How do you think you're going in convincing them to take it up?
Well, it's very simple. First of all, we go through the process, we consult, we draft the bill, we introduce it to Parliament, we let people have their say in a select committee. That in itself is valuable. But I suspect that there's a thirst for this kind of discussion. It's already very popular when the public are asked, and I suspect that the public might do more to persuade my coalition partners than I ever will.
And how many people do you think you convinced in the crowd today?
Oh, there were people that came up to me afterwards, as there always are, who say, look, that was pretty fiery, but good on you, and you might have more support than you think.
David, there's a way to read your speech, a way to read the Prime Minister's speech today, which is that he was telling everybody, we do not want to talk about the treaty, we do not want to talk about the marae, we're going to get on with economic issues and education and related matters. And the implication may have been, and therefore we are going to shut down this treaty bill as soon as we can.
Well,
he reiterated to us just now that the long-standing position of the National Party is not to support a referendum.
Well, it's the Simon Wilson's long-standing position of containing great hope that springs eternal. But actually, you can do both. You know, I'm responsible for the Treaty Principles Bill. I'm also responsible for bringing back kura haurua or charter schools. I'm also the Minister of Regulation, responsible for making it easy to do business and, for example, build homes in this country. So actually, you can do both at the same time. Yep, we know that the National Party has a different position, but we're taking the bill to first reading, and all bets are off after that. We'll keep working to persuade them.
How did you receive that weddle from the pōwhiri today? Because yours was distinctly different from the weddle that was laid down with the Prime Minister and Winston Peters.
Yeah, it was pretty fiery and far out. Those guys really gave it heaps, but at the end of the day, that's the way it works in that particular part of the culture, and I was really honoured to be a part of it. And if they're singling me out for special attention, well, I'll give as good as I get.
Because it is special, it was special attention, and that shows the respect that they actually have for you. So it's not as though they were disrespecting you, but they showed you mana. That's, I think, some of the lost in the misunderstanding of tikanga and kaua on the marae.
Well, exactly. And look, I mean, it was very hot, and those guys were giving it everything. One guy apparently lost his pants at one point, so that's commitment for you.
He actually deliberately talking to the pōwhiri haka group, they said it was about sending you a message around your divisive policies, and that's why they had a united group of ngapuhi hapu come up to you to deliver that whether it was about sending you a message according to the pōwhiri haka group.
Yeah, and I understand that that's some people's sentiment, but ultimately, you're not going to kill ideas with a gun nor a taiaha. You actually have to exchange the ideas, and I'm very happy to talk to them about why maybe they don't need to be so worried about the Treaty Principles Bill.
Talking about giving it everything, Mr. Peters had his own perhaps performance stuff today. What do you reckon of your old mate's performance?
Look, I think that he confronted them in the limited time he had before he met some diplomats very forcefully. And of course, one great advantage that he has is that he can quote events that have happened over at least 2 centuries.
And just on the treaty principles bill, how attached are you to the referendum aspect of it? Or could we see it perhaps sort of shift to a point where it's not necessarily a referendum if the binary choice is the issue, but it's a actual piece of legislation that's passed by Parliamentary?
Well, put it this way, end-of-life choice started off with no referendum, and because of the political process it did have one. Maybe this goes the other way, but at this point what is critical is that this evolution of the treaty principles actually has some input from someone who's not a judge or a member of the Waitangi Tribunal or the public service, i.e. the great unwashed, as it's been said, the wider New Zealand public.
David, you've said in your op-ed this morning, and I think you've just said here in this press conference, that you don't believe that the treaty is a partnership. How then do you explain Article 2? Because Peter Tipene said here that that was the promise of the treaty.
Well, Article 2 says that there's tirorangatanga or self-determination for all New Zealanders, and there's certainly people who will say that what was in mind at the time was New Zealanders as understood at that time. My question is, there's subsequently been a lot more people, including some who have arrived on the plane this morning at Auckland Airport. Should all New Zealanders now include them having tirorangatanga? And if they do, then you no longer have a circumstance where some New Zealanders are in partnership with the Crown and others aren't. And I put it to you that there is no sustainable future, there's no good model in the world where some citizens have a certain constitutional setting in place and others don't.
Speaking to people on the grounds over the last few days, the common theme has been that they feel the government is taking away their Māoritanga. Can I get your response to that?
No, I don't think that this government is doing that whatsoever. I mean, we are prepared to devolve services and everything from education to health to welfare in order that people can do by Māori for Māori solutions. It's the previous government that centralised everything from Te Pūkenga to the healthcare system. This government is interested in actually allowing all people to self-determine and do things their way, including Māori. That's strengthening Māoritanga. Thing is, it also strengthens people who might come from a Pacific background, people who might be Chinese or Indian, or people who actually don't think ethnicity is a big part of their life at all and just want services delivered their way. That's what devolution is about.
And a couple that I spoke to...
Sorry, yes.
A couple I spoke to said that they actually felt scared about their te reo Māori, that it had been beaten out of their grandparents and their kids had it through kohanga, and that things would change. So what is your government doing to ensure the language continues to flourish?
I think that's a good example. I mean, frankly, I think the best thing the government could do to ensure the language flourishes is sort out getting te reo Māori on Duolingo. I mean, that would get a lot of people learning very cheaply overnight. But putting that aside, I actually think that we're going to see devolution. I'm in charge of education, early childhood education. I'm responsible for partnership schools being reintroduced, and we're absolutely in favour of kohanga reo. I mean, you've got to remember kohanga reo, or Dame Iritana was a founding member of ACT, so we've got a long pedigree in that educational choice movement, and that is the ultimate self-determination. I might mention that while we're at it, it was Richard Prebble who deregulated the radio networks and made iwi radio possible. Now, in terms of devolving, allowing markets to occur, actually the ACT Party has a long heritage, even before it was formed, of allowing people to self-determine in terms of the reo, and that's why I say we believe in tirorangatanga, perhaps more sincerely than anyone.
You've mentioned all the other hacks that you have, and obviously that's a combination of work you want to do, but also policies that party want to get through. Does it get to a point, will it get to a point, do you think, or would you consider a point where all of the treaty principle stuff is actually sucking up way too much oxygen, and is just becoming the only narrative, and that actually it's not worth it because of the other stuff that you've said that you want to get done?
I actually think the constitutional settings that New Zealand has are foundational. If we want to work out how to get homes built faster and get infrastructure built faster and start using genetics, then we actually need to have some agreement about what science is, about who gets consulted, about what citizenship is. It's quite challenging to solve those other problems when we're constantly required to believe that there are two types of science, that there are two realities, when in actual fact there is ultimately one humanity right around the globe.
So
Isn't it
sorry, just to
possible that
try and
multiple
work out what
realities
that
can
was what you were saying
exist at the
there.
same time?
Are you saying that fundamentally you have to get the Constitution and the treaty principle stuff done in order to do anything else? Is that what you're saying there?
I don't think you have to do it first, but I believe that when people look back on this time, people will say, well, you know, if you don't have an understanding of what the treaty really means and whether tiratanga extends to all or just some, it's going to be all the harder to solve those other problems as we head towards 2040.
What makes you think you have public support on the Treaty Principles Bill you mentioned earlier?
Well, you're from NZME. I mean, you recently published a poll that said 60% agreed with our treaty principles and 18% opposed. So I guess probably reading your media outlet.
You're going to jump off the bridge?
Is this now, are we back to using metaphors or literally? Look, I'd love to, but I'll probably be back up in the north where I've spent a large part of my life when things are a bit cooler. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you see the painting?
No, but some members of my caucus did, and they wondered if the poor guy was cold. So.